for some reason, and they have a lot of milk. So there are certain organizations called them, I think they call them Mother Milk Bank, right? So the mother can, get rid of the milk, keep it in like hygienic bottles, and keep it in certain temperature. They will collect that, and they will actually mix all that milk from so many women, mix it in one tank, and they would sell it, or they would offer it like for certain charity organizations. Is this permissible? Is this permissible in Islam? No, it's problematic. It's problematic. Why? Because nursing, if a woman nurses a child, another woman's child, she becomes the mother of that child again. That child cannot marry her own daughter later on, because they're connected through this nursing process. So when you mix that blood, that's a huge issue. That's a huge issue. But there are extreme cases when there are babies who their mothers don't have enough lactation and they can't take formula, like they react to formula, and that's the only way for them to survive. Okay, these are extreme cases that might be given a concession. Okay, so these are things that happen. You'll be surprised, but when someone is actually in, like when people go through conditions like this, you will realize, oh, these things actually exist. Yes, they are there. They are there. Okay. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, what if a husband dies? What about the wife? Can she marry straight away? What is she supposed to do? Allah also provides guidance with regards to this. Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ يُتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ وَيَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ أَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرٍ وَعَشْرًا فَإِذَا بَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِيمَا فَعَلْنَ فِي أَنفُسِهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرٌ. Allah is saying, as for those of you who die and leave widows behind, let them observe a waiting period for 4 months and 10 days. When they have reached the end of this period, then you are not accountable for what they decide for themselves in a reasonable manner, and Allah is all aware of what you do. So basically, if a husband dies, a woman has to wait for how long? 4 months and 10 days. 4 months and 10 days. Almost 130 days. She has to wait. She can't go and remarry. Okay, let's say the wife dies. Can the husband go and marry? Or does he have to go through a waiting period? Huh? Huh? He doesn't have to wait. But what kind of a man, his wife dies Friday and he goes and marries on Monday? What kind of husband is this? What kind of a man, right? It tells you something. It tells you something. So this has to do with women. Why? Because by the way, it has to do as well with the womb. It has to do with the womb of the mother, making sure she's not pregnant. And by the way, not all pregnancies are visible. Not all pregnancies are visible. Sometimes, like some women are pregnant and they don't have a belly, and there's no real signs like of pregnancy. And sometimes, like a woman passes out or faints, they take her to hospital, they check her out, they find out she's like 25 weeks pregnant, right? Sometimes 30 weeks pregnant, and she doesn't know. She doesn't know. These are rare cases, but they happen. So, in Islam, there is this subhanAllah, this regulation that a woman has to wait. And by the way, there are when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a ruling, there are wisdoms, and we don't necessarily know about all of them. I read a few years ago, there was a research about, it's a little bit technical, so I'm not specialized in medicine, but I do have an interest, and I do read some scientific, articles and journals sometimes. So actually, when a woman has a relationship with a man, what happens in her womb makes a some kind of fingerprint in her brain cells. So the semen of the man has an impact on the brain cells of that woman, and it's a permanent mark. So I'm right, yes? Okay. So I don't know what's the implications of that.
Yes,
Okay.
some sort of DNA interpretation, they call it.
Exactly, exactly. And I think,
Yeah.
Yes, found in that. And
Yeah, it's
actually,
very interesting.
before
article.
3 months, the pregnancy won't be appear. And it's still in the pelvis. After 3 months, the pregnant can come out. That is why before, we don't have that technology. And the ladies, they get pregnant when the belly is starting to appear. But before 3 months, you won't see any belly because it is inside the belly.
yeah, so the first, exactly. So the first 3 months, the pregnancy is in the pelvis, it doesn't show, there's no belly.
No.
There's no belly, yeah, subhanAllah. So again, so there's, whether we find out some of the wisdom or not, that's not the point. If Allah tells us something, we know it's for good. We know it's for good.
It's embryological science. Now they have discovered that at least 4 months are required
For
to
the
make the pregnancy clear.
For the fingerprint to disappear.
Yeah.
Subhanallah. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, I'm sure like, as science advances, there'll be much more to be discovered. Subhanallah. Okay, so then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, okay, what if a woman, like her husband dies or she's divorced, and you have an interest in her? Can you go and approach her during her waiting period? Like, her husband died. She has to wait for 4 months and 10 days. And as a person, as a young man, maybe you have an interest in her, you want to marry this woman. And you're afraid maybe someone else will go first, right? Can you disclose that to her? Can you approach her? Allah talks about this. Allah says, وَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي مَا عَرَّضْتُمْ بِهِ مِنْ خِطْبَةِ النِّسَاءِ أَوْ أَكْنَنْتُمْ فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ عَلِمَ اللَّهُ أَنَّكُمْ سَتَذْكُرُونَهُنَّ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُوَاعِدُوهُنَّ سِرًّا إِلَّا أَن تَقُولُوا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا ولا تعزموا عقدة النكاح حتى يبلغ الكتاب أجله واعلموا أن الله يعلم ما في أنفسكم فاحذروه واعلموا أن الله غفور حليم. Allah says there is no blame on you if you subtly, like in a subtle way, not in a direct way, in an indirect way, showing interest in a divorced or widowed woman, or for hiding the intention in your hearts. So you have an interest in a woman who like her husband died and she's in her waiting period. There's no harm if you have the intention. Or if you imply, like, okay, like you see her doing her groceries in no frills, okay? And so what do you say? Like you might just walk by her and you say, well, I don't know when this period is going to come to an end. Maybe some people are interested, and you walk away. You throw a word like this, okay? Or maybe she knows a family or a friend, right? And you sort of send very subtle messages. You say, well, yeah, maybe someone will be interested, right? Something like that. So you throw a word like that. So that's what Allah told. Allah saying no harm in this. But Allah says, do not approach directly. Do not approach directly. Allah says, okay, yeah, Allah knows that you are considering them for marriage, but do not make a secret commitment with them. Do not go and have an agreement with them as secret. It's unethical. Okay? You can only show interest in them appropriately. Do not commit to the bond of marriage until the waiting period expires. You can't go and make a commitment with them. Say, hey, once it's done, we're married. We're gonna marry. No. You can only express interest in a subtle way, and that's it. And that's it. Okay, know that Allah is aware of what is in your hearts, so be aware of Him, and know that Allah is all forgiving, most forbearing. Again, another thing about divorce. Allah says, لا جناح عليكم إن طلقتم النساء ما لم تمسوهن أو تفرضوا لهن فريضة ومتعوهن على الموسع قدره وعلى المقتر قدره متاعا بالمعروف حقا على المحسنين وإن طلقتموهن من قبل أن تمسوهن وقد فرضتم لهن فريضة فنصف ما فرضتم إلا أن يعفون أو يعفو الذي بيده عقدة النكاح وأن تعفوا أقرب للتقوى ولا تنسوا الفضل بينكم إن الله بما تعملون بصير. So Allah says, there's no blame if you divorce women before marriage is consummated, or the dowry is settled. Sometimes people go and ask for a woman in marriage and they have an initial agreement and they might even like sort of like have a commitment. Like have a commitment and say, or even write the contract, the nikah, and say later on we will decide what the dowry is. But then you see something you don't like and you say, no, I wanna opt out, I wanna get out of this, I want to divorce. You have made the nikah, you have made the contract and the commitment. But you guys have never lived together, you've never been together, right? You do not consummate the marriage. What do you do in this case? Do you give her the dowry? Or do you take it back? You say, well, we're not married yet properly, like we did not consummate the marriage. So Allah settles this. Allah says, you can actually do that. You can divorce a woman before you enter into her. But give them suitable compensation. You have to give them a gift. You have to give them some form of compensation. The rich, according to their means, you are rich, it must be bigger. And if you are poor, according to whatever you are able to afford. A reasonable compensation is an obligation on the good doers. It's an obligation. You have to give her something. You've broken her heart again, right? And then Allah says, and if you divorce them before consummating the marriage, but after deciding on a dowry, you've already decided to say, I'll give her $5,000, that's the dowry.